Greetings, vloggers, bloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dynasty with another edition of this week's vlog. Today we're going to talk about my mental health crisis 3 years ago, since it has been 3 years to the day that has happened. Today is February the 3rd, 2023, and we are here in a better state of mind and hoping to have a better outlook on the future 3 years later. So while I don't go into true specifics of my mental health crisis, because totally what caused me to leave my first home was not totally a mental health crisis, but it did cause some trauma and it did cause some issues with my mental health and my autism. And ultimately, I did have to leave my home on February the 3rd, 2020. And for some time, I did live with my parents. It was something that, it was a learning experience, but ultimately not taking care of myself, as I had not been taking care of myself for over a year at that point. It ultimately crashed. And when I say it ultimately crashed, we had all of the precipitating factors. We had COVID-19 come on to us in March of 2020, and we were sent home from our jobs and our day programs, and as a result, I was at home with my parents for 2 weeks with nothing to do. And as such, my mother was working remotely at the time. She was employed. And I was, for the first 2 weeks, had nothing until there was a plan to be put in place. And ultimately, I would work 5 hours a week, half of what I work now. But until that plan was in place, things started to crash. And ultimately, they did in 2020 twice. And it is no wonder that I am here today talking to you even about this struggle. It's been a long road, and it still is a road sometimes. Recovery is an ongoing process, even though it is probable, possible, and likely, as they say. It is definitely a process for some, and it takes time. For me, it was. If I would have adhered to my medical prescriber all along, I think I would be where I was. But ultimately, what saved me was my therapist, and I can't give them credit enough for being where I am today, because they have saved me from so much of getting out of crisis was the biggest thing. But actually listening to the advice of my therapist that I hadn't been listening to for 18 years at the time. And, actually realizing that if I wanted to get back into rhythm and listen to what I wanted to do, I also needed to be honest and be honest about the things that I was doing and the way I was acting. And, it took a lot of time. This was all among having other precipitating factors that were wreaking havoc in my mental health, such as having a very toxic friendship that resulted in constant texting day in and day out. And ultimately, in November of 2021, I would put an end to that by building a boundary around that. And I still keep that boundary around it today. But it would take some time for me to realize that I needed to take things out of my mental health that were bothersome. And I think it took a long time from when it crashed in 2020 until 2021, ultimately getting to my current home, which I've had since November of 2020, and into 2021 to realize when things started to crash and I started to have meltdowns and not get the desirable outcomes that I wanted from reacting, that it would cause I had to work on me. And working on me is not easy. Working on yourself and admitting that you're the problem is never easy. You want to deny it. You want to hide it. You don't want to be. You want to hide how how things how you're not the problem. Oh, you want to be the manly one. You want to be the one who says you're not the problem. It's not you, but sometimes it is you. And for me, that was what it took. It took me accepting that I was the problem and that I needed to work on my mental health and I needed to work on my struggles with autism. Ultimately, it was understanding that doing too much of one thing or another caused autistic burnout. and that recharging was necessary at times, and that I only had so many spoons to give in the course of a day. And that was a big onset for me as well, was realizing that, there was only so many, I can only give so much if I only have so much. And that and if people want to give me more and more. That is ultimately in November 2021 was what caused me to set the boundaries around toxic people and around knowing what I cannot do. Well, I had been working on boundaries for some time. I just knew I had to keep them boundaries stronger and be more defensive to my needs. I also had to learn how what was properly acceptable was advocating for myself, and that acting entitled or empowered in a sense to demanding to get what I wanted was not a way of getting what I wanted. It would take some time to understand that. And ultimately, it would result from a meltdown that I had in front of my peers to realize that was not the way to do it. Not getting attention in a negative manner was a big understanding for me that only made things worse. It did not cause, what I wanted by ultimately throwing a hissy fit and getting what I wanted. And sometimes this can be related as being a spoiled little brat. And at times it could be, but also I had to learn how to manage my emotions and not let them get out of control, and how to work with my emotions and be an example to my fellow people. It was a long growing process, and eventually everything had to be a long growing process with my mental health and my autism journey. It took a long time to get there. It wasn't easy. If it was easy, I think we'd all be standing at the door saying, give us the magic pill or give us the magic thing. For me, I already had some of the tools, but I had to learn more of the tools. This took learning how to properly set boundaries and be mindful of myself, how to take care of myself, how to take care of my living situation, how to set time for me and understand that it's okay to take time for me. It's okay to take a nap in the afternoon or in the early evening, and understand that, we learn and grow from those things, and that we're just burnt out and we just have too much on our plate. And sometimes it's okay to just to take a nap and move on and move forward from where we were. It takes a long time to get where we were. And ultimately, at the end of 2022, I built better from those things I left in 2021. It took being more adherent about my mental health and working more on being a positive person, to where it was only limited to my inner circle in 2022. And ultimately, that's becoming less in 2023, that's becoming less and less. I'm working more on things, letting go of things that happened in the past, and I'm working on being a better person overall instead of just limiting it to my inner circle. I'm also working more on being more coherent with my medication regimen and following it more routinely. This comes within time, and I hope in 2023 this will be better. It's not easy, but I'm proud to be where I'm at because I've really worked for it. And being here it feels good. It feels good to be in a place where I can do things and not be all scatterbrained or all over the place. It really does. It feels really good. And I don't know. I don't know what the future entails, but for today, we're here and we're learning and we're growing and we're being a better person because we're taking care of ourselves. And it's not easy, going through the struggles. And I hope things get better in 2023. I hope things look, a lot better than what they were the past 3 years. But we have to put the past behind us too, and we have to move forward. I'm hoping that I can move past the things that happened in 2023 and not constantly be reminded of them. But I also have to keep in hindsight that I need to take care of myself and continue to do the good things. So with that being said, I want to thank you for listening today. Be sure to like and follow on my YouTube platform. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram at Dustin's Dynasty, on the web at dustinsdynastyusa.com, and on TikTok at Dustin's Dynasty ASD. I want to thank you again for listening, and be sure to have a good day now. Bye for now.